Hello, I'm Paul Fedorys, Cisco Account Manager for AT&T's Next Generation Networking team. This security overview is for Yigal Ebenez, CTO of AT&T Networking, to provide an overview of Cisco's security cloud platform. The way the security industry has worked, every time there's a new problem, there would be a little cluster of security companies that spring up to solve that problem. And while the quality of those solutions can be quite good, the problem with this model is that it puts the burden on the customer to constantly ingest both a new vendor and a new tool. And it's really reaching a breaking point. As a customer moves on their hybrid multi-cloud journey and starts to think about working with multiple public cloud providers, each one of them has their own controls. And this makes the problem even worse because each cloud provider has a set of native security capabilities built into their infrastructure, but not that one is better or worse than the other, it's just that they're all different. And despite widespread deployment of these multiple security tools, both the frequency and severity of ransomware attacks has been increasing over the past year. So our vision at Cisco is to fundamentally change this with a security platform that we call the Cisco Security Cloud. We abstract security controls from the underlying infrastructure and deliver a cloud-based set of capabilities. We focus on areas where security meets the network and are heavily integrated into the Cisco networking cloud. And we provide a comprehensive view from the moment our user clicks on an email all the way through the entire chain until an application accesses the data. And when we have that end-to-end platform view, we can stop attacks like ransomware far better than those individual point solutions. Now, this is indicative of what we see in the industry, which is a movement towards platforms. A platform is a system of systems made up of various individual solutions integrated to deliver a better security outcome. So our platform consists of three major components: breach protection, user protection, and cloud protection. We'll start by talking about what we can do to protect users and deliver a great end user experience. If you as a user want to get a glass of water, can you imagine if someone asked you whether or not you wanted water from copper pipes, iron pipes, or plastic pipes? Of course not. It would be absurd. So why is it that enterprise users have to think about the nature of the pipe that they use to connect? If I'm going to a legacy application, I use a VPN, but if I'm going to a modern application, I'm going to a zero trust zone. If I get a SaaS application, I might go somewhere else. And then there's the plain old internet. Each one of these is fundamentally a connection or a pipe, and Cisco are the plumbers in this metaphor. So let's deliver a seamless end user experience with what we call Cisco Secure Access. We've reduced that process for the end user. Step one, authenticate. Step two, get to work. That's it, literally. It's the most boring demo in the world because there's nothing to show. Now, under the covers, we may be opening a VPN connection to connect an app that needs VPN like Jira or SAP because it's running in a private cloud. And this other application is running in a zero trust zone, but it's been moved over. And there's another SaaS application running in the cloud. And those are the choices of the pipe. And we can manage this on the back end in such a way that the user doesn't have to know. And we do it in such a way that we provide security controls that are highly effective but also highly intelligent. So no longer do users worry about whether they need VPN access, zero trust network access, or just internet access. With us, it's just secure access. Better for users, easier for the IT, and it's where security meets the network, and that's where Cisco shines. Cisco is unique in this capability. Now, the reason we see this as a big problem is that for many customers, they have hundreds or even thousands of applications that make up their enterprise, and those apps were built in a different time. And those apps were built in a time where network had a trust boundary. This is a thing called the DMZ, and when you're behind the firewall, you can go right to those applications directly. Now, when we move to this zero trust world, we want to say that we want to implement what's called the least privilege model. The least privilege means that salespeople can access sales applications, developers can access developer applications and common applications, but a developer can't get to the sales apps, and the salespeople can't get to the developer apps. That's the least privilege part. So the challenge with this is that some of those applications weren't designed to talk to a gateway. There's no way to enforce the zero trust capability because zero trust capability needs what's called an app connector or a gateway to sit between the user and the application. And this allows the connections or denies connections. It takes time to modify or update those applications so they're compatible with the zero trust gateway. With Cisco Secure Access, we have blended together VPN experience and zero trust experience. So all the user knows is that it works. You don't have to think about using a VPN versus zero trust. But for IT or the developer team, you can be moving applications from a VPN zone into a zero trust zone, um, and the user experience will never change. So we deliver a great user experience, and you don't have to think about the pathway that you're taking. Now, we're very focused on delivering that great end user experience. When a user logs into the corporate directory, we're going to authenticate you one time. But if nothing else changes on your machine, you can go from Salesforce to Workday to Concur, and we're not going to ask you to authenticate. But if you shut your laptop and walk down the street to a coffee shop and access the Wi-Fi that we don't recognize, we'll use our Wi-Fi fingerprinting technology and say, hey, we're the networking people and we see that the network changed, and so we'll ask you one time to authenticate. And the point is to frustrate attackers and not to frustrate end users. And it's really oriented around delivering a great end user experience. We have a global network of points of presence that's close to the end user, wherever the end user is, which means we can deliver a very fast internet experience. And that's what's unique about Cisco is we deliver that great end user experience. And we measure it by integrating ThousandEyes into the solution. If the user experience isn't great, we can show you with a consolidated view, is it a problem with the client? Is it a problem with the Wi-Fi? Is it with the broadband? Is it a problem deeper in the network, or is it the application itself? This is a unique capability built into Cisco Secure Access. This is an example of integrating Cisco capabilities that allows us to shine where security meets the network. Cisco Secure Access is part of our users protection suite. One SKU, one offering that delivers capabilities that can help customers stop ransomware more effectively and at lower cost than individual price points. Now let's talk about cloud protection. The same principles of zero trust that we think about between a user and an application should apply app to app. So let's imagine a world where we've got a marketing app that's running on AWS. So it's crunching away, doing its thing. And at some point, it's going to need to reach back to a customer database that might be residing on-prem. And typically, the way that's done is a customer will set up a network connection like a direct connect. The problem here is that if there's any vulnerabilities in that application, you now have created a pathway for an attacker to move from public cloud workload back into the private cloud and to gain access to any of the sensitive data that may reside there. So customers, they shouldn't have VPN. They have the least privilege models that they have for users to apps. So when it gets this hard to do, is that the applications that are built in a private cloud are all built around the notion of an IP address as a form of identity. But on the public cloud, that marketing app, it might be made of Redshift or Lambda. These are services that don't necessarily have an IP address. And that's why we've integrated our deep networking understanding with the IP addresses into the services that we see on the public cloud. This is an offering that we call Cisco Multi-Cloud Defense. It's a transition layer that allows us to set up that least privilege connection, so that the marketing app can talk to the customer database and only that customer database. So the same principles we had of least privilege access for user applications, we can now do app to app. And we can do this with every cloud. We're committed to being a leader in AI. We've done it for years, and we're investing in innovation. We'll offer an AI assistant which uses generative AI to reduce security complexity, policy complexity, and optimize policy for efficiency. Cisco Multi-Cloud Defense is included in the Cloud Protection Suite that we've designed to protect any application on every cloud, private or public. We talked about user protection, we talked about cloud protection. What ties it all together is breach protection. If you think about a typical attack sequence, it usually starts with a phishing email with the tools like ChatGPT. With tools like ChatGPT, these emails are getting incredibly difficult to detect, tell friend from foe. These emails look like they're coming from someone you know. No grammatical errors. They're very difficult to distinguish from a real email. Phishing email is going to get through to a user. They're going to click on it, and it's going to take them to what looks like a photo sharing site, but it's not a photo sharing site. Maybe it's a site that just popped up a few days ago. So having an understanding of the websites and the DNS capabilities of that website is very, very important. When you get to that website, code begins to run on your machine. And we often see as PowerShell will run and spawn a new process that we've never seen before, and it begins lateral movement across the network. So these patterns of a funny looking email that takes you to a funny looking website, which leads to a funny looking process running on your machine. And now it wants to move across the network. You start to see patterns emerge that help you identify attacks faster than ever before. And this unique ability from Cisco XDR, and we have native telemetry in each one of these domains. From email to DNS to tracking every process and connection to lateral movement across the network. The reason our security efficiency is high is that we process a lot of information. To distinguish friend from foe, we look at more than 550 billion security events per day. We have a very deep bench of technical expertise. We have more than 500 people working in various capabilities in our Telos group or for threat research. We employ AI-powered detection, which uses predictive AI and analysis to correlate events and data at machine scale. And really the goal here is to stop risk somewhere more effectively than others. Now, one of the unique capabilities that we have is we've taken our XDR capability, we've integrated it into the infrastructure. So if we see a suspicious sequence on a machine, we're saying, huh, that's a funny looking process. It's not a known good and it's not a known bad. If it was known bad, we'd just block it, but it's in that gray zone, it's in the middle. And now it wants to connect to an app like a customer database. But before we allow the connection, we're going to take a snapshot of the customer database and back up that data. Now, we allow that application. If it turns out it's just a normal update to the Windows machine that we may have first have looked anomalous, but it turns out to be harmless, well, no problem. We took a snapshot, we can throw it away. But if it turns out it was ransomware, we just triggered a snapshot that has allowed us to automate the ransomware recovery process. So which means if you got infected, we could say, yes, you got infected, but you didn't get sick because we recovered you back. This is an example of the security resilience that Cisco talks about. We'll also offer an AI assistant for breach protection, which uses generative AI to give your security analysts superpowers and help you address the security skills gap. XDR is a capability of our breach protection suite. Think of our security portfolio as 3 simple use cases or suites of capabilities. We have user security focused on everything for an end user. This is a suite of capabilities that have the zero trust philosophy for applications, whether they live in the private or public cloud. And there's a suite of capabilities that tie these analytics together. This provides advanced security capabilities that focuses on places where security meets the network and allows your customers to have a better security outcome. Thank you.